Doesn't matter who you are, what you do, or what kind of dog you have. Flyball is the sport for you. Welcome back, everyone. It's Alex for another Flyball and Friends interview. Before we get started, I have a question for everyone, and hopefully you'll leave a comment down below with what your thoughts are. What do you think the fastest time a dog will be able to run in Flyball? Today we're talking to another person that is on Fur Fun. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Welcome, Braden. So glad that you could be here with me today. If you could introduce yourself for everyone on the channel.
I am Braden Simmons. Most people know me as Braden Snoozer on Facebook. I'm 19. I run on Fur Fun Flyball Club. What else? I have 3 dogs, and at the current moment, I'm a full-time student. I'm a sophomore in college, and that's about it.
That's cool. How long have you been racing for?
12 years, I think.
Awesome. That's a long time. Good for you. And what got you exactly playing Flyball?
That's a great question. So back in the day, I wanted to train my first dog to be a therapy dog because I did a program in the library where I could read with dogs. I thought it was like the coolest thing ever. And then I met the right people. I met Erin Saywell, and she handed me a dog for the first night I've ever met her. And she was like, "Take this dog, train him for me, work with him." My mom looked at her like she was crazy. At the time, I thought she was crazy too. And it ended up, I just fell in love with the dogs, and she invited me out to play Flyball once. And ever since that, I just got hooked.
That's awesome. So at what age did you actually start running dogs?
8. The first tournament I've ever been to.
Awesome. That's cool.
She handed me a dog, and she was like, "Have at it." Most of her dogs are really well trained, and like it's point and shoot. So
that makes it a lot easier when they're point and shoot.
It is. This makes it a lot more fun too when you're 8 years old.
100%. Yeah. All right. So what would you recommend to anyone starting out in Flyball?
Talk to people. I think most of my relationships and just how I got to know Fur Fun and all the clubs I've been on is just I've watched their dogs run, and after their dogs are done, I would go talk to them and be like, "Wow, your dog's amazing. Please tell me about him." And everyone there just wants to talk with you, so like it's pretty neat.
And sometimes it's hard to get them to be quiet about their dogs.
Yeah, sometimes that's when you just walk away and you're just like, "Oh, I got something to do. Sorry, bye-bye."
For sure. All right, so when you were that young, was there a dog out there that really stuck out for you that you just loved watching?
Quest, owned by Tammy Frank on Instant Replay. I think I saw him, I want to say 2010 or 11 at Can-Am, and I saw him, I think, the first race of the day, and then I purposely went out to go talk to Tammy, and I got her race schedule so I could go follow him every single race. And then I saw him in a championship, and I was just blown away. Like, at the time, I'd never seen a 3.6 dog, let alone a 3.6 Border Collie. So yeah. He's a gorgeous dog too, so.
For sure, that helps when they look really good too.
Yeah, they look pretty.
So how long does it usually take for you to train a Flyball dog?
So my oldest dog took me 6 years. Never want to do that again. He was a pain in my butt, but my youngest dog, Selfie, she took me like 6 months. And like, I'm really nitpicky, as most people in Region 9 know. So like, I love to nitpick like box turns and striding. And so like, I still constantly to this day train her and like, "Oh, I don't like this. I don't like where her foot was placed 1 millimeter off." So I try to go fix it. But yeah.
That's cool. So that really, there's a vast difference between your first and second dog.
Yeah. A lot of knowledge learned.
That's awesome. So how often would you make it to a Flyball practice with your team?
I've never been to a team practice. We don't host team practices. Once our dogs know how to play, they know how to play. We don't feel like we need to practice them. It's just like any sport, or riding a bike. Every now and then, a few of my team members and like friends of mine will get together and we will go train like young dogs, and I'll go help out, just do recalls or box work. But it's not like a whole collective team. It's like a good like 2 or 3 of us that get together. Certainly I train most of like their box turn at home when they're young. But once I get their box turn done, we kind of like leave flyball for tournaments. Like we do a lot of warm-up spots. I try to separate my home from flyball because I feel like every time I try to bring flyball into my house, I get obsessed with it. And so I'm like, if I bring my box into my basement, I might try to work my dog twice a week, and I just don't want that. So
that's cool. All right, so I've already interviewed Emily Getty on your team. Do you have a funny story about her or maybe her family?
I would say Emily is a pretty class act. I don't have any funny stories about her. She's great. I love Emily. She's one of my favorite team members, but I have more funny stories about her husband. I love making her husband like flinch and get mad and like just messing with Phil Getty. A lot of the times Phil Getty's our coach for our A team. And so when you coach, you have to tell people to take it easy and you're giving instructions. And I tend not to listen to Phil just to piss him off a little bit. So like a lot of times when like he tells me to take it easy, I will purposely try to nail my pass or a bad pass just to see what he does. Yeah, he's coined the phrase, "Do you like wearing pink for me?" I'm gonna actually put that on a shirt because a lot of the times like I'll piss him off about like almost losing a race because Phil Getty told me to take it easy, but I wouldn't.
That's awesome. All right, so how often would you say you go to tournaments?
Now never. But like usually once a month.
Okay.
Maybe twice a month. And like sometimes we take breaks in the winter, but not often.
Yeah. Are lots of your tournaments pretty local, or do you have to travel quite far for them?
I live like 6 hours away from my club, so I always have to travel. My club goes to mostly local tournaments. So like Julie Jenkins, who's my team captain, usually goes to all the tournaments. She doesn't travel more than like 2 or 3 hours. That to me, sometimes I'll have to drive 9 hours to a tournament in South Carolina, but at this point I'm used to it. I'm luckily in college in North Carolina, so it's much better now. But
awesome. Okay, so what would be the farthest you've been for flyball?
France.
Wow.
Yeah. Pretty fun.
And that was for the World Cup?
That was. Highly recommend going. You can get in. It's great.
Are you going again next year?
We gotta see about that. About like a lot of times, like right now, Belgium, the FCI World Cup was the same week as my exams for college, so I could not go this past year, even though it got canceled. Lucky me. But hopefully my exams fall before Belgium next year, and if they do, I will go.
Awesome. Was there one specific thing that stood out for you in France or at the World Cup that was really cool to see?
They don't use hype dogs. That's what stood out to me the most. They're so old school. They have 4 border collies jumping over 12-inch jumps or 14-inch jumps. They don't care. Like we were the only one to have like an 8-inch height dog, or at that time it was a 9-inch height dog.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of cool, and they don't have a bunch of mixes.
Mm-hmm.
I think I saw one other purpose-bred mix, and it was just a border staffy from like a really old like breeding back in like 2009.
Wow, that's cool. All right, so do you have a favorite tournament that you love to go to besides any of the championships?
Athens, Georgia, Double Dog Dares tournament. I think it's called Summer Camp. Really fun. They have a scavenger hunt where you walk around downtown Athens and you go in stores and you ask random people questions, and you go like scavenge with like some of the most random items you can find. It's pretty unique. Like one year we had to go walk around and ask police officers if they had a name that started with a Q. Like just random stuff.
That's awesome. That's cool. That's the second time that place has been mentioned, so I'll have to try and put it on the bucket list for flyball. That's good. So what would be one of the more important things you learned when you first started playing flyball?
I'd say watch people train. I think like I've learned a lot from just watching people at warm-ups. Back when I was on my old team, every 10 a.m. I would go watch Rocket Relay warm up the dogs. I would go watch Instant Replay Spring Loaded. And you watch what they do and you can pick up little pieces to how to manipulate them to work with your dog.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like that's why I'm the trainer I am. I'm not saying I'm that good of a trainer, but I will say I know some things from just watching people. I did that with For Fun for the longest time. Ended up I'm on For Fun now, but it helped. I watch a lot of the slower teams too because they have a lot of the challenging dogs. They have these unique like breeds, and so they have to think outside the box.
100%.
Like some of the faster teams, all we have is Border Whippets and Border Collies, so it's kind of easy to train. Well, okay, let me rephrase that. It's not easy. It's easier than training like a dachshund. So.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. Now that you've been all the way out to France, is there anywhere still that you would love to go, whether it's compete, train, or even just watch?
I kind of want to go to Texas to a U-Fly tournament, just to see what it's like. Like we don't want U-Fly around here, so like I would love to go watch Top Dog Racers or Hyperflight or Touch and Go, see what they're like.
For sure. What exactly do you like about playing flyball?
I used to say the competition because I love beating people. I'm very competitive. Nowadays, I just like hanging out with everyone. My team's pretty great. I'm sure Emily told you that. But I hope she did. So like I just love hanging out with people and talking to people. It just, and you meet a lot of new people through flyball. So
yeah, that's for sure. Is there one team or maybe even just one person that you would love or that you love racing against?
At Can-Am, I love racing Animal Inn because we tend to hang out with them like after racing is done, and so they're pretty fun to like mess with in the lanes. That's about it. Like I like racing all teams, but yeah. I mean we constantly race the same teams down here, so it gets old.
For sure.
A lot of like we know how all the teams run down in Region 9, so like we know when to take it, like ease up on your passing, or when we have to push for it, or like which dogs our dogs love to run against. So like there are certain teams like Dog on Fast has these Border Whippets that our dogs love, and so our dogs typically run the best racing them. So that's the time where we push it as hard as we can to try to set a new personal best. And just we know the dogs, so it's really convenient.
For sure. Would you be able to tell us one of your earliest memories of flyball?
My earliest memory in flyball is the Coconut Classic in New York. I think it was 2010, and the Coconut Classic is famous for their costume contests. And so I remember when I was 10, I had like all the confidence in the world, as most 10-year-olds do. I was dressed up in Shirley Temple in a dress and flats, running a dog, and it was a sight to see.
That's cool.
That's my earliest memory, and it's probably one of my funniest memories. A lot of the times, people will come up to me when they haven't seen me in like years, and they'll be like, "Oh, you're the kid that wore the dress that one time." I'll be like, "That's a great memory to have. Thanks." Who to introduce yourself.
That's cool. All right. Do you have another favorite memory of flyball, whether it's on or off the racing lanes?
I'd say France. When we stayed in the house together, while it was like tense at sometimes, we just had such a good time just hanging out. We played dominoes every night. The weather was beautiful, and just getting to know my teammates better. I think that was probably my favorite memory. We played dominoes every night, so.
That's awesome. Do you have any personal goals playing the sport?
I don't have personal goals. I have club goals. Like I would love for a club to be back in the 14s again. I mean, we have some newer dogs that should bring us back in the 14s, but it's been a while. It's been like 3 years, so. And I mean, I just love seeing my teammates' dogs do really well. So I would love to see some of these newer teammates that just got dogs do really well and exceed.
Do you have anyone that you look up to as a mentor in flyball, whether it was when you first started or even now?
When I first started, I obsessed over Julie Jenkins. Like, when I mean obsessed, I was like called for Fun's fanboy because I was really train her dogs, and like I'd be like so awkward, and I would message Julie like randomly and be like, "Tell me about your dogs." And so I love Julie. Nowadays, I can't think of anyone like I look up to. Like I hang out with Julie all the time, so she's still a mentor of mine. But it's different.
Yep, for sure. So do you have any hobbies outside of playing flyball?
I hike a lot, so I backpack. So like when I'm not away for flyball on the weekends, I'll go backpacking for like 3 or 4 days. And I tend to like to travel different countries and backpack. So I went backpacking in Iceland and like Costa Rica and Aruba. So
awesome. Did you get to do any backpacking in France?
No, I did not. I got to sleep in France and just eat really good food and talk to people.
Fair enough. All right, so now I think that's all the questions I have for you. I would like you to challenge someone to do an interview with me. Do you have anyone in mind?
Rose Kane on Revolution. She hasn't been in flyball for long. I think it's been like 5 years.
Yep.
But she's very smart, and she's been really invested in the sport. And she's one of my best friends, so I think she would be an excellent person to interview.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. I will hopefully reach out to him soon and get them on the channel. But other than that, that's all I have. So thanks again, Braden, for being here. I'm so happy that you could take time out of your day, and I know it's late there, so thanks again for doing this with me. Other than that, hopefully we can get back on the racing lanes again soon, and hopefully we'll see you there.
Thanks again, Braden, for doing this. It was great getting to meet you finally and getting to hear all your stories. If you guys are new here or just haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do so. And also hit that notification bell just to get notified when any new video drops. If you guys would also like to check out some of my merchandise, I have a link down below. Or if you like some more information on Fur Fun or flyball in general, I have tons of links in the description below you guys can check out. Make sure you leave a like and a comment on today's video if you have any other questions about flyball or any questions for me or for Braden. Until next time, guys, see you then.